Hi guys, my name is Donnie and welcome back to my workshop. In today's video we're going to start working on the Jaguar. Now guys, starting a new project like this sometimes for me is a little bit overwhelming, because the big question for me is usually where to start with your first proverbial brick, where to lay your first cornerstone so that everything from there on out will be fine and everything will work together. Now guys, obviously the first thing that comes to mind when you're starting a project like this is that you'd probably take the body and put it on top of this chassis and then start working from there. Now the thing is, I have spent many hours looking at pictures and researching these cars just to familiarize myself with exactly what I've got to do and how I'm gonna go about doing it. And guys, I have, after putting that body on top of this chassis loosely and taking it off and doing some measurements a couple of times, found that something was just off with this chassis. I wasn't exactly sure what it was, because if you put that tub that came with this on top of this chassis, everything would fit, but if you put the body on top of this chassis, something was just off. And I realized at the end of the day that this engine is too far back on this chassis. It actually needs to move forward about 4 inches to be exact. Now I'm gonna show you what it looks like when this body is on top of this chassis and how far the engine sticks underneath the where the firewall is supposed to go. And if you have a look at this one picture that I've got off the internet, you'll see that there's an actual gap between the firewall and the engine, and that is not the case when you put that body on top of this chassis. So it has become clear that this engine is too far back. So guys, what this video is going to be all about is I'm going to be taking that engine and undoing the engine mounts and the gearbox mounts and the prop shaft at the back, and then I'm going to suspend this engine and move it forward about 100 millimeters or as far as I can, and then I'm going to test the body on top and see if those if everything, or if the dimensions are correct or seem okay. And then I'm going to fabricate a new set of engine mounts, and I'm going to mount the gearbox in its new position, and then we're going to need to make a new prop shaft for the back, and hopefully when the engine is moved forward, everything else will start getting into place, and then in the next video we can start working on putting that body on top of this chassis. So guys, let's get going. Alrighty guys, I have now successfully moved the engine into a more suitable position. It did move forward probably 100 millimeters or even a little bit more, and I did make sure that I'll be able to remove the water pump, for instance, for serviceability, and also I had to make sure that there was enough room for things like the fan belt and pipes and so on. But I think this position is going to work fine. I've got a bit of a clearance here. It's not as much as the original car, but remember, this thing needs to lift up still because it's sagging, because it's fiberglass. So it's going to lift, that's not a problem. But at least I moved it forward now substantially, and I think this is going to be awesome. So what I'm going to do now is I just need to drill 2 new holes forward of that bracket for the gearbox, and then I'm gonna take these old engine mounts just as a reference. And I'm going to fabricate new engine mounts that are the right amount forward, which is about 100 millimeters or so, 120 millimeters. And if I've made those and installed them in the engine, then I can drop it and see if everything is fitting nicely. So guys, let's get going. Okay guys, just a quick update. I have now successfully remounted the gearbox on that chassis by simply drilling 4 new holes, moving them forward, and now the engine is still suspended by that crane, so I need to fabricate some new engine mounts. And these are the old engine mounts, and basically this hole over here needs to move 100 millimeters in that direction. And on this engine mount that's on the other side, this part that goes to the engine mount needs to move 100 millimeters in that direction. So basically all I could do is just cut these off, move them 100 millimeter and re-weld them, and do the same on that one. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use this piece of base plate steel that's the same thickness, and I'm going to fabricate a new set of engine mounts from this base plate, and then we can install it and see how it works. Let's do it, guys. Right guys, there we go, done. I have made a new set of engine mounts. These are the old ones, these are the new ones, and as you can see, it is about 100 millimeters or so off center to the old ones. Now all I need to do is go and install these bad boys and see how that engine fits. Nice. Guys, there we go, done and done. The engine is installed. The new engine mounts are installed. They're nice and strong and sturdy. And most importantly, the engine and gearbox is now in the right position. And it's not so obvious to see exactly how much I did have to move it forward. But if you look at this prop shaft at the back, this is about how far it had to move forward for it to be in the right position. I did check that the accessory belts and alternator and everything is not touching the chassis, so everything is nice and loose. And now I can start installing the body with the engine in the right position. And guys, I'm going to leave you there with that for this video. But if there's one teaching moment that I'd like to pass on, is that this is the reason why it is so important to do your due diligence when you're starting a new project. Take as much time as you need to do the right amount of research, because something as simple as this, even though now that we know the problem, if I hadn't seen it, if we didn't find this problem or this mistake, the whole project from here on out would have been wrong and out of whack. That is why it's so important to lay your proverbial cornerstones right in the beginning by doing your research properly, so that we can now start doing the project from here and building this car from this chassis that is now got the right dimensions. So in any case, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.